one thing that isn't a bad idea is just consulting with a CPA from the start. A lot of times, even with like self-employed, single member LLCs, there's other expenses that you maybe aren't thinking about deducting on your return. So those kind of things can be beneficial. Biggest thing is record keeping. If you were to get audited and going backwards is a lot harder than, doing it from the start and making sure the biggest thing is the business reason.
Welcome to Leaf Notes, the podcast that helps your business take root and grow. I'm Adria Marshall, seasoned business owner and speaker.
And I'm Sydney Mafuka, artist, illustrator, and small business owner.
Join us each week as we take you on a journey through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. We'll dive into everything from social media strategy to protecting your business.
We'll even answer your burning questions such as, do I need a business plan? Should I form an LLC? Where should I promote my business? And so much more.
Together with our guests, we'll break down these topics into actionable steps, helping you build the business of your dreams.
So whether you're just starting or you're looking to scale, we got you covered.
So go grab your notebooks, your favorite beverage, and cozy up to receive practical insights and inspiration here on Leaf Notes. Let's go make your business dreams a reality. Hey, Chelsea.
Hey, how are y'all?
We are good. How are you doing? We made it. I'm so glad we made it.
This is my first podcast, so I'm
It's a really It's only a premiere.
yes, hopefully many more, right?
Yes. So, Chelsea, let's get into it. Sydney, you haven't met Chelsea before.
No, I haven't. I've heard good things.
Chelsea, why don't you introduce yourself first?
Okay. I'm a senior tax accountant. I've been doing Adria's work for years now. I've actually been with my firm, Aprio, for 9 years since my internship. It's been my only job. And I do taxes, but I also kind of help on sometimes the financial side of things. And I work with mostly professional service industry. Main focus is healthcare and legal. But of course, I do all kinds of other stuff too. So
that is so fascinating. I'm going to tell you the first thing. I don't know if you saw her bio and her
No, I didn't have a chance.
Yeah, because we were working through the podcast drama. But Chelsea, one thing that I did not know that you went to Alabama too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I went to University of Alabama for undergrad and master's. So.
Oh my gosh! I knew I loved you for a reason. I did not know that.
Getting big, lots
of right. And so I didn't realize that you had been with Aprio the entire time.
Yeah, so I did my internship while I was still in college, and then I went back for master's and had a full-time offer, and then came back full-time ever since.
I want to know, why did you pick the tax
accounting? Yes.
Because when you hear, everybody makes a joke about, I don't want to be an accountant. That's just such a boring job. So,
yes.
What's the story behind it?
So really, one of the main, I always loved math, and my grandmother growing up, this is kind of like a nerd fact, but she had a 10 key. And so I'd always play with the 10 key. I knew numbers were my thing. And then when I was looking for what, degrees would sustain a recession, that was actually, because it was shortly after that, I wanted to make sure I was going to choose a career path that was going to have stability. And accounting was one of the top 10. So I tried it, and I had heard all the, things about tax, you're going to have a gray suit, you're going to have a gray, everything's going to be gray cubicle. It's going to be boring. You're going to be behind a computer all the time. And I didn't realize that you really build so many relationships in tax. And sometimes you're a counselor, something you never would have thought going into tax is that you would be, going through life's hardest and best moments with your clients and helping mentor them in some of that, or just being a listening ear.
Yes, that is so true. You are my listening ear, Chelsea.
It's so different than definitely what the movies portray and everything. It's accountants and tax, I think, and audit, sometimes you have to be the bearer of the bad guy. I mean, sometimes we have to bear bad news, but we can help our clients, where audit's kind of more of something that's required by regulations, and not everybody loves it. So people do, there's a little bit of a better relationship sometimes with the tax accountant. So that's kind of why I chose tax and professional services, because you're more hands-on. So you're going, here's getting your business started, business license. You're kind of going through this cycle. And at this point in my career, I've seen businesses start, they sold, the aftermath of like the new norm after you've sold your business. So that's been really cool for me to like see a business through the entire cycle now that I've been with Aprio as long as I have.
So, what are some things that you guys have learned from working together?
What
Because it seems like since this was a baby, you guys have
Yeah.
been
So
together.
what was fascinating, and I feel like we should talk more after hearing some of this, Chelsea, too. But so I started out with kind of a mom and pop accountant at first, working with Tom, and Tom was amazing. But when the business started to grow a little bit, it was outside of his wheelhouse. So he referred me to another Tom at Aprio, and it was great. And so I feel like Chelsea has taught me a lot about the do's and don'ts of taxes. And she has been, I mean, she's seen me during our booming years and our not so booming years. And she's just been there just to offer advice. It's not necessarily tax related, but still helping me find a new bookkeeper and just give advice on my foundation and lots of other things. So yeah, it is like because I guess at the heart of your business when it comes down to it, it's the financials. So having that person that you can count on and depend on and reach out to is really helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds like really amazing.
you are like a therapist.
Yeah.
Death and taxes and, birth and taxes too. That's the more exciting side of things. The death part is harder, but you think about what people have to deal with when hardships come and the business is profitable and how do we get out of this. One great thing is when the business isn't profitable, your tax bill is low, but that's not that's not what we want. So it is, profit comes with taxation. One thing with tax too is everybody thinks that you can reduce the taxes to basically nothing, and you can't. Like there's only so much you can do, and that can be that can be hard too sometimes. It's having those discussions, which Adrian and I have had some of those before.
Yeah, we have had some hard discussions. So what I want to ask you is, what are, if you can share, it can be vague, but what are some of the tough conversations that you've had to have with some folks?
So there's been personal side of things that are tough, but then there's also most recently the 174 changes. Adrian, I know that you've seen some of this.
Yes,
Um,
talk about that so that everybody can understand. Sydney, you're gonna enjoy this.
Okay.
Yeah.
so in the past, there's been this R&D credit, and it's for research and development, which is absolutely amazing for our country. Everything for businesses, just we need to keep that in house. We need to keep it in the U.S. And recently, last year, they changed the tax law where you can still take that credit, but you have to capitalize all of those expenses and depreciate them over 5 years or 10 years if it's international work. And what that does to businesses is a lot of those expenses are salaries and wages paid to employees that are doing the research and development. And so these employees that have paid out these salaries don't want to have to cut, or companies don't want to have to cut employees, are in this weird position where they paid out expenses, they don't have the cash flow, and it's a huge increase to your tax bill. And I mean, that has been, we really thought it was going to get reversed. It's, it started to make headway earlier this year, and then there's been no movement on it. And there probably won't be this year. But it doesn't really make sense to, any of us that are in the tax profession or businesses that it's impacting, because it's almost discouraging research and development. And it takes a while to get back to where that credit is more of a benefit than the capitalized cost. So eventually you'll get there, but
So, Sydney, just to give context, and Chelsea, you can tell me if I'm saying this correctly, but previously, all the work we do to develop a new formula. So I'm paying Avery, I'm paying our chemist, I'm buying all this stuff. A large portion of my time is going to that as well. I used to get a significant credit for that work, and it would really help out with my taxes. Now what they do is only get a portion of that back over a period of, what is it, 5 years, Chelsea?
5 years, yeah.
And that's like per product?
Yes, it's no, it's per year.
Per year. So
So I'm only getting like a slim piece of that each year versus getting a large chunk of that.
Mhm.
And so what it does is it makes you not want to invest as much in a new product because you're not seeing a lot of that tax
because it's
benefit.
going to be a big investment overall,
Right.
right?
And
Mhm.
eventually you'll start to make up for it. And with the economy being like it is too right now, and everything's more expensive, it really is discouraging.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
you have to go out of pocket
Yes.
for everything instead
Yes.
of knowing
Mhm.
that you have that kind of support. I get that.
Yeah, I remember when you first gave me that news, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, we had, some situations with businesses where they would be put out of business. So, we worked with them to help develop new contracts and whatnot, to change kind of some of the wording behind it. Because it was only wages. Like, and, they really didn't want to get rid of employees. So that we're hopeful that that will still shift, but that has been one of my hardest conversations in the past couple years, just or past, I guess, year and a half with clients because it's a big impact. It's no longer that credit isn't even offsetting the taxes that you are being, for the capitalized expenses. So, and PPP, ERC those years. So that was when COVID hit. That was hard. I mean, we shifted to remote work and I'd be out in the backyard on the weekend and get a call from a client because PPP portal open and I'd be inside, trying to get them a PPP loan or whatever I could do for these small businesses. And especially in the healthcare industry, because a lot of them shut down and there was no elective surgeries, which is where, a lot of them do make the money. And thankfully I saw all of my clients made it through COVID, but that was a very alarming start to how are, these small, because I work with a lot of small businesses. I work with medium, bigger businesses as well, but they had safeguards in place in a way for something like this to happen, where small businesses are kind of working day to day. They have some savings, but not enough to, protect them for the unknown. So that was another hard. We've gone through some interesting years since my career in public accounting. So
Wow. And yeah, I think with those years, it was just during COVID, it was the uncertainty because you just didn't know what the impact was going to be, how long it was going to
mhm.
last, you know?
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm going to change topics really quick because Chelsea's had a baby recently.
Oh my gosh.
I
Yeah.
guess she's not so little now. Is she three now?
She'll be 2 at the end of July. So she's not a baby, but she's still a baby in my eyes.
So how do you manage to balance, like especially tax season with being a mom? How do you balance like the work life and the family life?
So that is still something, I'm learning every day. But one thing, so a couple of my managers in the beginning, I talked to them before, while I was pregnant and just how do I kind of, manage that because I don't want to be a mom that isn't present or is missing games or those kind of things. And I also have a bonus son who is 8. So he's heavily involved in soccer and basketball. And so one thing I said is I would never miss a game. And I never missed a game. I just worked around it. I worked before, after. And then with Addison, I didn't want to miss bedtime or dinners with my family. So I have a block on my calendar that basically says I'm unavailable. And I work later at night and go to bed a little bit later, but it's a short term kind of situation so that I can be present with my family and not miss out on that time. It kind of you choose what you prioritize and just setting boundaries. And they all know, some days we have sick days, some days Addison might be joining on the Zoom call, so it's nice to be in a flexible world. And I do feel like COVID helped with that. It's just kind of the understanding of working moms. And that's one thing that I really love about my company is that, and, I've experienced like losses in my life and so have my coworkers, and the team rallies so hard behind you and like helps, take on, even though not a lot of us have capacity, we figure it out ways to help those team members so that they can go to a funeral or, whatever it is, to be able to help them through those times. And I think that's, when we recruit for internships, and that's one thing that I tell everybody is it's public accounting. You're going to get taxes, you're going to get audit, you're going to get similar exposure, but you've got to find the right culture that fits, with what you want. And you spend a lot of time with these people. So you need to get along with them.
And I think what I was going to say is that what I love about Aprio so much is that it's really perfect for a business my size, I feel like, because you guys work with the small businesses like me and you work with larger businesses. So I'm getting the benefits of both. I'm getting, that intimate, the personal touch, the relationship building, but I'm getting the expertise of a company that works with larger businesses as well. So it's like the best of both worlds. And I say that because I'm able to call Chelsea, call Thomas, and they know all my business about what's going on. And it's like a family relationship, but I still get the R&D benefit and all of those benefits that a larger company would get as well. So I think it's amazing. And so I can definitely imagine from what I know about you and Thomas at Aprio that you would get that kind of support, with setting boundaries and prioritizing family and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, that and one thing I love about working for a bigger firm that has all those resources is you don't have to be an expert at everything. And we have somebody that can answer the questions. Like, as you move into more states and things like that, we have a state and local tax team that specializes in that. And because there are so many states, they all do things different. They all want a piece of the pie, but the way they get their piece of the pie is different. And it's a lot to keep up with as it changes every year. And so we have a team that, they provide resources to us, but then also if we need, a nexus study or something special, they'll do that. And they also know kind of about certain state credits that each, state has as well. So I love it that I don't have to be an expert in everything, but I have experts in everything at my hands.
It's so funny because we ask a lot of women in business who come on the show, like how they manage like being with their families. And I love how you just said, well, I just do my best because everybody just kind of does their best.
Yeah.
But I think like it's all back down to priorities. I think it's really cool that you made your family a priority, but also didn't just like leave your business behind. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you found a pretty cool balance, and I think that's really admirable.
Yeah, and sometimes, the lack of sleep can can weigh on me, but it's the one thing about tax season is there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and that helps kind of get me through the longer hours and everything. And it allows during the summer to have more time to be able to log off a little early, pick Addison up, take her to the park, or, those kind of things, which the summer is when, you're usually getting outside more and playing outside anyways. And the winter months are not as enjoyable. So it kind of works out the seasons and the timing. So
I have a question that I want you to ask. I'm going to ask it for you.
Okay, go ahead.
So for a new, because Sydney, as you know, Chelsea, because you've helped her with her taxes, right?
Wait, no, she hasn't.
Yes, you did.
Have you? Did you?
Well, I helped in the background, kind of. With kind of through the business, helped with your taxes.
So you know that she's a fairly new business owner, and you're not quite at the point where you want to pay for or feel like you necessarily need an accountant.
Right, because I'm not super big.
So if you're not quite at that point yet, what are some do's and don'ts that you should pay attention to so you don't get yourself into a lot of trouble? And then what is that point where you feel like, okay, I need to go ahead and get a CPA?
One thing that isn't a bad idea is just consulting with a CPA from the start, even if, you're not. And there are smaller businesses that are more affordable CPA firms. And then you can always transition like as you grow your business. But sometimes even from the start, the entity type that you set up your business as, or if you're going to have partners involved, like making sure the partnership agreement covers you and that there's no non-compete and somebody can't go steal your business and set it up across the street. And, just like what you own within the business, there's some, certain entities you don't want real estate, you don't want vehicles in, certain things like that, where from the start it is kind of, beneficial to have a CPA. And also, even if you don't think there's much an accountant can do for you, a lot of times, even with like self-employed, single member LLCs, there's retirement strategies that you can, fund. There's other expenses that you maybe aren't thinking about deducting on your return. So those kind of things can be beneficial. Biggest thing is record keeping. If you are deducting something and there's a business reason, just making sure you're documenting that, because if you were to get audited and going backwards is a lot harder than, doing it from the start. And making sure the biggest thing is the business reason and not, getting in the fine line of a hobby loss. If typically you want to be profitable for 3 out of the 5 years, but some businesses aren't profitable for a while. So you just have to be documenting that you're trying to run the business as a profitable business. And then, when you move into wanting a CPA, the biggest thing is to let them know before you do something rather than after, because that's where we see a lot of pitfalls, but we also see successes from doing that. And acting on, any advice that you can, because I've also, I've had clients where I've given them a bunch of recommendations and they didn't implement any of them. And then there's no tax savings at the end. And so that's also, you don't have to implement everything that they suggest. And you can also, retirement, where like max out your retirement, but you don't have to, if you can't and you can put $5,000 away, that's great. That's better than nothing. You get a little tax savings and then you're building towards retirement. So that would be, acting on as much as you can of the advice.
Okay, so what does a consultant with a CPA look like? Like, do you just find one?
Well, I guess Tom would be a good one for her to start out with, possibly. What do you think, Chelsea?
So we actually have a couple of firms that it's actually, most of them are people that once worked at Aprio and kind of went on to their own and they're doing smaller businesses. So, we refer to, we're not gonna sell you on Aprio if it's not the right fit for you. We realize that. And so sometimes we'll recommend other CPAs. Sure you can Google and find some, but I don't know if that would be, I would probably try to get a referral from somebody. And then, there's times that we'll set up a proposal. They're like, right now is not the right time, but I may engage y'all just for some consulting while they're setting up the business. And some people, start smaller and then come over to us when they're ready for kind of more advanced tax strategies.
So you either can reach out to them and they make some referrals, or have them put a plan together for you. Or like I was saying, I worked with Tom first and he referred me to them once I was out of his wheelhouse.
Got it. Because sometimes it's just about like, just for me, I like to, when I talk things out, I feel a little bit better about things. So even just having a conversation of like, okay, what can I expect from, you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know.
I think what she said is a good place for you to start, is make sure that do you have a separate account for all your business expenses? So great. And then what you're saying is document what you're doing.
Got it. So like, for instance, like when I make my custom hoodies, what do you mean document what I'm doing?
What do you mean document what she's doing, Chelsea?
Like, is it also just like every single little expense that I make, have it documented somewhere else as well? Or like,
if it's an obvious business expense, if it's materials for what you're making or those kind of things, receipts are important to save somewhere. There's there's lots of like cloud type drives where you can back stuff up. You can also do USB, but the bigger thing would be like stuff that could be borderline business personal. So like if you're doing any commuting to go meet with customers, clients, that kind of stuff, a mileage log, and then it's showing here's how many miles you did and here was the business reason,
Mhm.
meeting with this customer or marketing meal with this company or
The meals
those
and
kind of
coffees, things
things.
like that.
Got it.
Mhm.
Like just making a note there, basically, or
So you bank with Wells Fargo, right?
Mhm.
You can actually enter in a note on that transaction. You can enter in a
Okay.
note.
And that's just okay.
Mhm.
That's just so
Yeah,
I know.
so you know what it's for. So if you get audited later, they'll say, "Well, why'd you spend $1,000 on coffee?" Then you'll know what you actually did.
So I know that we've gone on trips. And you mark things as business expenses.
Do we need to cut
No,
this part?
no, it wasn't business. We were talking business. I'm not saying we weren't talking business, but I just think it's so like that's when you would actually like specifically like
Yes.
write down.
Right.
Like, that makes sense. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. I didn't know that you had to be so specific because I thought like this is good to know because I thought as long as it was made with your business card that I didn't
Well,
have to
it is, but if they come back and they start asking questions
question
about you, want to make sure that you know those
what.
answers.
Got it. Okay. Has that happened to you before?
I haven't been audited before, but my bookkeeper has definitely come back to me and said, "What's this transaction for?" And I have to write, and especially all the drama that I've had with bookkeepers lately, I had to go back, months and try to think, well, what was I doing? What was this for? So it's been so helpful just to have like a little note
No,
about it.
yeah, it's so neat. You're a Virgo. Why didn't you have it?
You're right.
So are you using anything like QuickBooks to track your expenses or anything? So QuickBooks, you can.
I heard good things about QuickBooks, though.
Yes.
That might be what we switched to.
I like it because you can also attach like receipts to an expense within QuickBooks, and so then you could quickly go back and see what it was for. Or if you do have a bookkeeper, they don't have to bug you as much because it's right there in front of them. It's you can always, if you were to get audited, go backwards. But our advice is to prepare if you were going to get audited from the start. That way, you're also not putting yourselves in any like areas where you're not going to have deductible expenses. Or another thing, when you do grow and other people are involved in your business, that's going to help you monitor if any like fraudulent activity could be happening, or this expense has gone up a lot. What's in this category? And then, it'll help you one, see if you're not like monitoring your expenses and controlling them. Maybe a company just keeps increasing the rates and you don't even really realize it, renegotiating contracts. But definitely controls in place so that you don't have, fraudulent activity as well. So
I have
Go ahead.
so I have another question. It's kind of tax related, but kind of like also just I guess tax and business kind of go hand in hand. But when do you know? Because I've heard mixed answers on this of when to start an LLC. Because right now I'm currently a sole proprietor. But I know that having an LLC can provide like more protection from you because your business is separate than you and all these different things. But I've also heard that getting an LLC is mostly necessary when you hire your first employee. So, what would be your advice for me or anybody else who's listening to this who's considering getting their LLC? When would be the
So
right time?
when you decide to potentially make that move, that's when you're going to want to consult with a CPA, because it may be that an LLC, like either you're setting up an LLC or an S Corp. So S Corp, there's a lot of advantage there, but there also is some like gray area. So like you have to pay yourself a reasonable salary and you have to set up payroll. There's registration fees. There's now a tax return fee. So it's kind of weighing like the cost benefit. So at what point do those costs make sense to incur? And then there is the liability side of things. So, I'd be careful not to purchase like a vehicle maybe in the company's name while you're, just a single member LLC. Because do you need like, and once you hire employees, it might make more sense to, set up an LLC or an S Corp, because then you are protecting yourself kind of in that situation as well. And, there's kind of like a formula involved with the S Corp when it makes sense. You've got to get your earnings to a certain point where it makes sense to be an S Corp, because the big thing there is getting taxed on your salaries, and then your net profit that's not being paid out in salaries is kind of sitting in the company. Eventually you get taxed on all of it. It's not tax free, it's more tax deferred. So finding that like fine line of when it makes sense to potentially set up an S Corp. Unless like if you're going to bring in other partners, partnership probably makes more sense because the way you can allocate things in a partnership. So definitely if you're planning on bringing more people in, then you kind of have to set up a, not a single member LLC anymore.
Yeah, and that's what I did too. So when I hired my first employee, that's when I became an LLC. And then I was doing things all backwards. So thank God for Tom. So when he came on and helped me out, at some point he made the recommendation that should be in S Corp instead.
Got it.
Okay. So yeah, I think at the time when you want to hire somebody or bring on somebody, it's a really good point.
That's good to know. 'Cause, yeah, I guess I'm good where I am at. 'Cause, yeah. But it's still cool to know because then I'll know when I'm ready for that type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else you got? How are you doing with your books?
I could be doing better with my books.
I know we all can.
I could be doing better with my personal books too. So
yeah, my personal books.
Yeah. So like, what is some bookkeeping 101? Like, do you guys have any tips for just bookkeeping in general?
Chelsea, you are the expert.
So that is one thing that I really like about QuickBooks is because you can like link in your bank account or a credit card. Like if you're doing credit card expenses, I recommend having a separate business credit card. I know sometimes, it's the credit card you have on hand. And just flagging stuff that's personal into a separate category. But what you can do is you can memorize transactions. So like QuickBooks almost thinks behind the scenes, and as you code stuff, it'll start recognizing what that expense would be. So, if it's yes, it's similar to Mint. And then you can run a P&L, you can see kind of your cash flow. You can see like your bank account with outstanding items as long as you if you're paying checks, as long as you code those in QuickBooks. So you can see, because you go in your bank account, it doesn't show you what checks you've written and haven't cleared, or any expenses that haven't been paid by ACH. So it kind of helps with that side of things. And then also the P&L, you can look at your expenses, you can look at your revenues, you can see how it's grown over the years, and you can see maybe where like a lot of times if you see like your advertising going up, we should see revenues going up. Except like when you start, it's a little bit different, but as you're, once you've established your business, and if that expense is going up a lot more than what the revenues are going up, like percentage wise, then the advertising probably isn't working the way that it should be. Maybe there's some costs that need to be cut, or the strategy needs to be revamped. So that's, one I would recommend, sooner than later, getting that set up. And then when you do your taxes, you have your P&L already created for your tax return.
And you know what? I don't know if you realize, but Mint has gone out of business. So this is a good time for you to transition over.
Your action item when we meet.
Yes, okay, good. That sounds great, because I'm in the process of moving over too, and I may move over to. I don't know if you know Chelsea. You probably don't know. You know what? I need to make an intro between you and my bookkeeper, because we're just 2 months in, but so far so good. And they are moving me from Zero over to QuickBooks, and so I may move since Mint is out of business over to QuickBooks on the personal side too. I think I may do that.
Yeah, we can compare.
And they have like different levels so like you could get like the personal QuickBooks is cheaper. They do have self-employed QuickBooks, and then they have more advanced, because some people need to track by location, like, or certain, or a lot of doctors' offices track by doctor or things like that. So they have different levels, and obviously the more high tech, the more expensive. But they have, I think it's maybe $10 a month for the personal one. So I need to re-link mine in too, and do that because it's really great for budgeting at home too. So
Yeah. Okay, we're all gonna do it. That's an action item.
Great
We're all gonna
action
do it. We're
item.
gonna do it. And Chelsea, it was so fun that you brought up the advertising costs, with being able to do the cross check. I remember us having that conversation recently also. So it was something that was in the back of my head also. So it was great having that conversation. Then I followed up with my bookkeeper too, and we were able to set a percentage, I am
Budget.
growing up. I have a marketing budget now.
Ooh.
I know. So yeah, that was another benefit of working with Chelsea, being able to say, yeah, this looks a little high. And even like my charitable is a little, as much as I love to
yeah.
donate a lot, my bookkeeper did also flag that too.
Mhm.
So it's just great having Chelsea and then your bookkeeper also working together to keep your finances straight.
So is there such thing as donating really like too much? Because doesn't that benefit you like
It
in
does.
the long run?
It does, but there's like a percent, and you can talk to this more, Chelsea, too. But there's like a percentage that you're supposed to stay within. So
Oh,
I actually, I barely squeaked out a profit last year, and I ended up giving a lot. I would say I
Mhm.
probably gave a little bit more to charity than I should have if I was looking in the long run. Do you think? Do you think so, Chelsea?
Yeah, so there's not really like a, test for that, but you there's certain limits that you can take on your personal return, which we didn't hit that, but they do carry forward, like donations do carry forward. But when your business isn't profiting and then you're giving a lot away, it's more of how it's affecting the business, like, what money is still in the business or at a personal level, how it might be, affecting your finances at home, and paying certain bills and things like that. So it's more in that aspect than, you've given too much to charity. But from a business, planning perspective, it's
Yeah, because it was so weird. Because I love to give so much because I think the business has been such a huge blessing. But it was like, well, why am I struggling? And so it just like, okay, just making sure that everything is in balance. And so yeah, my bookkeeper, I mean, she is hard. I mean, she's great. And she was just like, we just have to get this together. Like, I appreciate your heart, but it's not in the best interest of the business. And so just putting that structure in place. It was a hard conversation. So I appreciate you and her for having those sorts of conversations.
yeah. I mean, that's a loving
It was
conversation.
a loving conversation that she had with me.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And she kind of just laid out the numbers in front of me and then just looked at me. I'm like, yeah. Yeah.
That's true because numbers are your language too.
Yeah. 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 So that's kind of the benefit too of why you need an accountant or a CPA
Mhm.
because it's just that additional level of accountability, I think.
Plus, they can see what's going on
Yes.
as well because I feel like we can, even in our, have you ever like, the analogy where it's like you walk into a room and someone's house and there's like the smell, but they don't smell it
Your nose blind.
because your nose blind because you just been like,
Yeah.
you're used to the situation. I feel like it can be similar
Yeah.
with like giving too much. You're like, well, this is how much I always get. It's not a problem. It's like maybe you've been living a little bit on the edge.
Yes.
So you have that outside person to look out for you.
Yeah, and with me, and to your point, I didn't realize it because we were giving more when the years were really, really good, and then I just didn't back off of it when things took a dip,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's nice having that outside point of view for sure.
Chelsea, from being what do you call yourself?
I am a senior tax manager, but we like to call ourselves trusted advisors.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay, so from being a trusted advisor, have you learned things about your own personal finances, like just from working in the field?
Yeah, one thing I've been like really encouraged to do is increasing my retirement savings and putting that money away. And then also another thing that some people I don't think realize is a thing for if your company offers it is like a dependent care FSA. So you can like put away $5,000 and it's tax free, and then you can use that towards your child's daycare. So that was something that I feel like if I didn't work at an accounting firm, I might not see as much of like the benefit of it, because you're like, well, that's $5,000 coming out of my check. but that's $5,000 that you're going to pay anyways, and you're not going to pay tax on. So that was, there's some things that I see, and I also see people that are donating more than me or putting more money away, and I'm like, I got to do, like it encourages me to do it. But I'm constantly helping clients budget and with their books, but my personal books, that is like our summer goal is to get everything into QuickBooks so that we can like set a budget and make sure, we're putting money away for the kids college and stuff like that. Because now I'm like, okay, we got to get that will in place. We got to do all the things I told my clients to do.
Yes, that's what you told me to get on in place. Yes.
Yes. So that summer goal is to, take my own advice. Like I said earlier, where we tell some people, here's our advice and they don't take it. I've got to actually implement some of it personally. So
we all need to do that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So Chelsea, what is your long-term goal?
My accounting career or
Your life.
I was saying your accounting career, but if you want to share your life goals too, that's fine.
I want another child one day.
Oh,
That's why we got to get our budget in place so that we can figure out, like financially. I know that you're never financially ready for a child, but it'd be nice to have our hands around it a little bit more. But my goal is to be a partner. I've been with this firm for a long time and I really care about the people, the culture, my clients. So my long-term goal is to be a partner, be able to better advise and really the area that I think I excel at within the firm outside of like clients and tax is just the people, like, my staff and how much I care about them and making sure, because it's changing. Like the accounting world is changing. Nobody wants to work 90 hours anymore. I mean, really, we shouldn't be. Like that's not healthy. So just kind of figuring out how to manage that as well, and just keeping, staff happy and making sure they're getting the training they need and the knowledge. Because I mean, they talk about AI, they talk about robots, they talk about all of that. And I love technology. So I'm excited for the opportunity to kind of like figure out how we can use that to our advantage. But because when you come out of college, you don't know much of anything. Well, how do we get our staff from here to trusted advisors without them, doing work? I mean, we haven't implemented the AI to do kind of the work yet, but I know it's got to come at some point for us to keep growing and evolving. So that's going to be somewhere where I want to like kind of invest my time in, is that side of things inside the firm, and then continuing to advise for my clients. And I feel like in a way we're going to probably start advising on that kind of stuff for clients, and there's different programs you can implement to kind of help reduce some of or increase efficiencies and reduce some of the cost burden. So it'll be interesting to see that through.
so how do you go from trusted advisor to partner? What does that mean, and what's that path like?
Trusted advisor is what we all kind of think of ourselves as. That's the goal, is for us to think of ourselves like that, because if we're just like a tax accountant, we're not really, advising on anything else or looking at what's next, or, it's just kind of day in, day out doing the tax return and getting through it. But going from senior manager to partner, it's going to be a lot more heavily invested in client relationships, growing the firm, and really delegating and managing the people below me. So, there'd be new managers on the account, like kind of like Thomas, he, like, I really manage your account, and he is there when I need him or I need that next level kind of, but the day-to-day I manage. And then, he kind of helps, pop in when he can, or if there's a question above my head, or if there's a dispute or something like that, it's at the partner level to kind of take care of that. So, and get involved in the community and everything. So
What you got?
I think my questions have been answered.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
this has been so helpful. This has been so helpful, Chelsea. It really has. We've been talking off and on for years, but I feel like this concentrated time, even though the bobbles of getting the podcast set up, it's really helped me understand your role in your life so much. And I had my own action items with we're gonna sit down and do that together, right?
We can.
I'm excited.
Then, I was gonna say also, I like how you guys call yourselves trusted advisors, because tax advisors can sound a little bit like tax agent or like stuff
Yeah.
like that can sound a little more daunting.
Right.
Like I'm just here to crunch the numbers, like
Yeah.
but I guess like talking with you, it made like me look forward to one day hopefully being at that
Yeah.
stage where I can talk to someone
Mhm.
because I'm hoping that that's charismatic and like
And
um,
care.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just Chelsea and her team, they are, I mean, everybody that works on your team, from Nick, um, everybody on the team, and the guy, I can't remember his name, the guy that helped me with the foundation.
Oh, Bruce. Oh,
Yeah,
Jason.
it was
Yes,
Bruce.
he's great too.
He's so
Yes.
great.
Okay.
Everybody that I've worked with at Aprio has been so caring, and they treat me like I'm their only client at that moment, which is
Aw.
it's a really good feeling. So I can't say enough about the company and how
And
great
we
they are.
appreciate you, trusting us and, being with us from the beginning and sticking through some of the not
Yes.
great tax conversations we've had. And you're one client that for one is very charitable, and I don't see that always. And so I have respect for you for that. And also you understand that with profit does come taxes, so
Yes.
that is, some people don't understand that, or they spend all their paychecks, then they think
Oh,
they've paid in their taxes when they're withholding barely anything, or they're not withholding
yeah.
anything. I'm like, well, that money hasn't been taxed, so we do have to pay tax. So
Yeah.
that is one thing that I appreciate about you as a client as well. So
Thank you, Chelsea, so much. Go ahead,
So
Cindy.
how often do you guys like meet to go over these types of things? Is it like quarterly?
It's kind of quarterly
Okay,
basis.
okay.
Yep. Just
yeah.
review all the things, see how it's going. They ask me all the right questions in a very non-threatening, non-intimidating way, but they dig it out of me.
Yes. And I mean, we have some clients that will just kind of do like year-end plan. Like some need more, some need less. And so that's
Mhm.
kind of when we do a proposal, we have basically you can pick and choose and kind of, put it together how you want. It's almost like a shopping cart, and then you drag and drop what you want into your proposal. And that seems to work really well for the different, because not a new business doesn't need the same thing as a business that's been established for 30 years, or, that kind of situation. So,
All right, Chelsea, where can we find more about Aprio online? Where can we follow you and get more information about the company and all that good stuff?
yeah, so we have our website is, I think it's Aprio. If you just Google Aprio LLP, it'll take you there, and my information's on there. There's, I've helped write some legal articles. We have a bunch of like good information out there for the public too, besides just here are our services and here's who you can contact. And then also I'm on LinkedIn on under Chelsea Carr.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much, Chelsea. Thank
Thanks
you for
y'all. I'll be
fighting
talking to
through
you
us.
soon, Adria. And Cindy, reach
Yeah.
out if you ever need anything.
Okay, thank you so much.
All
Thank
right.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to Leaf Nose. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment below and let us know what your takeaway was. Or if you're listening, take a screenshot, post on social media with your takeaway. This will help us reach more small business owners just like yourself. If you would like to leave us a review, head over to your favorite podcast app and drop that 5-star rating. Your feedback helps others find our show. And until next time, we hope your business takes root and grows.